So I'm going to talk to you about our 2022 spring testing results. I'm going to, at the end of this, share with you our MAP results by grade level and by subject so you can see what that looks like. And then talk to you about what we do with data, how we approach it, and how do we use it to ensure that our students are growing and learning, and also to ensure that our programs at Lumen Christi are meeting our students' needs. So the first is to give you a little bit of a synopsis. There's two types of tests that take place at the school. We have our MAP growth tests, and that test really tests a student against themselves, if that makes any sense to you. It really looks at students. They are administered a test, and then they get their score, and then the next time they take that test, it picks up where they left off, and it sees if they can receive more challenging questions. So it'll prompt them with a question that's more challenging than where they left off. If they answer that question accurately, it then will give them another more challenging question to see if there's more growth. And if they get that wrong, it might give them a little bit of an easier one. So it tries to find where that child is on a continuum. The students in 2nd through 8th grade take the MAP test. They take it in the fall and the spring. And then some grades and some students take it in the winter as kind of a dipstick to see how they're progressing in their grade level. Students in grades 3, 5, and 7 take a standardized test, probably what we're familiar with when we were in school, kind of like fill in the bubble on a Scantron with a number 2 pencil. That test is administered to students in 3rd, 5, and 7th. It's called the ITBS, or the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. And it's measures the students against really the standards for that grade level. So there's no like finding their spot there. It's going to give them a booklet with questions that are aligned to the core, the standards and the core subjects, and then see how they do against other students in their grade level. So it's a little bit different than MAP. I could be a 2nd grader, and my test questions could be at the 4th grade level, because every time I'm answering a question right, I'm receiving more and more difficult questions to find where I'm performing at. With the ITBS, as well as the MAP, you will see on your child's report what's called the National Percentile Ranking, and I want to talk briefly about that. So when we see that percentile number, I think it's just natural as parents. We want to see 90s. I want to see a 99%. I want to see my child at the upper end of that. Because if I see an 80 or a 70, I think they're failing. But know that with that ranking, it is a very different score. So it's going to show where your child is. Think of 99 students lined up. Where is your child in that ranking? So if they're in the middle, they're not failing. They're like the 50th students in that line. That middle is considered average. You have just as many students doing better than you do worse than you. So sometimes when we see 50th percentile, we right away feel like my child failed. Whereas if they took a math test at Lumen Christi, let's say, and they got a 50% on that, that's considered a U, or failing. It's not the same as the National Percentile Ranking. So that's a little brief piece of information. I also want to talk quickly, what do we do with these scores? So these scores all come in at the end of the school year. As a staff, we met the day after the students went home for the summer to kind of dig into the MAP data for their specific grade level, or the students they taught that year. We will come back in August, and the teachers will look at their incoming students' MAP data. So if I'm a 4th grade teacher, I will look at this current year we're just finishing, the 3rd grade students, see where they ended up for MAP, and look at their picture. They'll also look at their ITBS scores and start to paint this picture of that student. It really helps to inform the content and how they're going to approach the students for the upcoming year. As a school, we spend the summer to look through our building test data and to really make sure that, again, our programs are in place. If we're starting to see patterns, let's say our math numbers are slipping behind year after year, we're going to assess our math program. One final note before I show you the data is always be mindful that anytime a child takes a test, it's a snapshot, right? It's a moment in time with how they're doing at that moment. If your children play sports, you have more than likely seen they might have a good game. Say they play basketball, they might have a great basketball game, and then the next time they go out to play, they just don't have it all together. They're like, they're not dribbling well. They're turning the ball over, and you're like, what's going on? I know they know this. I know they've been practicing hard. What's happening? So just like with that, in testing, kids have off days. So we never want to make big decisions or high stake decisions based on one test. We always want to look over like the course of a year, look for patterns multiple years before we make some real big decisions. Let's say your child plays basketball, they've had amazing games, and all of a sudden they're just off. You're not going to pull them out of basketball and be like, you're just doing awful, you're out of basketball. Nope, we're going to say, I know you can do it, try again next time. Go out there. If they continue to have bad basketball games, one after the other, after the other, the other, then we're going to start to say what's going on here. Similar with testing. So to share with you our school data, I do this every year. We take our scores and we compare them. We have at our fingertips how kids in the nation did on MAP testing, whether they're a private school, whether they're a public school, or whether they're homeschooled. MAP takes all of the schools that take this test in the spring, put their scores together, and average it out. The MAP data, the score that you receive is called a RIT score, and it's a number on a continuum. So that's what you're going to see in front of you here. So from a math standpoint, you can see on this bar graph here, the Lumen Christi average score for that grade is in blue, and the average score of all of the second graders or that grade level in the nation is red. And this shows you the numbers or the data behind this. So example, in math, our grade 2 students at Lumen Christi, they had an average of a 192, that written number. In the nation, it was 189. And the percent that Lumen Christi is above the nation here, and that's the number of points that they're ahead. So you can kind of see how that kind of plays out for our school. And then in reading, we can see the numbers here. And then in language usage, and this is the English skills that we learn. This test doesn't begin until 3rd grade, so that's why you don't see 2nd grade there. Overall, our school, our students continue to outperform the nation. We're very proud of that. That is historically how our students have been doing, and this year's results are no different. We continue to be, on average, 2 to 5% above the average of the nation, and we're very proud of our students' hard work, our teachers' hard work, as well as making sure our students continue to be successful.